isn't that a fair point made by Claire Daly? There's a serious contradiction. You go with Europe when it suits and against them when it doesn't.
No, there's no contradiction. Let's be very clear about this. Read the EU treaties. The EU, the European Parliament, or whoever over here, has no right to set Irish tax rates, has no right to determine Irish taxation. This is an issue of Irish sovereignty. If the Commission get away with this and effectively say that we become the international tax collectors for countries all over the world, and effectively say that what we did in our tax codes, whether people like it or not, and there's a fundamental question about that, it was set in Dáil Éireann. It was part of the Taxes Consolidation Bill. It was Irish law. If the European Commission or anyone else in Europe starts telling us that in some way Dáil Éireann and all of the TDs there have in some way done something illegal, and the Irish Revenue Commissioners have done something illegal, that is a fundamental breach of our sovereignty. I want to be very clear about this. Tax rates and tax policy is set in the Dáil, not in the European Parliament, and I will defend the right of the Oireachtas to decide that. And if we go down...
could I come in there?
No, let me finish my point. I didn't interrupt you. Let me finish my point. If we go down this road and do not seek clarity and seek an appeal on this, then we will find ourselves in a very short period of time deciding that our tax laws will be decided elsewhere. And there is the problem. We came from being a very poor country to being a relatively rich country because of an aggressive industrial policy. We didn't have an industrial revolution in Ireland. We were essentially an agriculture economy into the 60s. It was the decision of Ken Whittaker, Sean Lemass, and every other successive government which has ensured that we've made this country a success in terms of attracting...
Okay, look, you're going a little off the point there. Go back to
Claire. We certainly are, because the European Commission has adjudicated and made rulings similar tax rulings for decades have been brought before the European Commission and so on. There's nothing strange in what they are doing here. And what you're attempting to do, Brian, is say, and for people who are saying this is a wonderfully successful country, all of the problems in our health service, our housing prices and so on, problems which could be massively alleviated by collecting money which has been deemed to be rightfully ours, it's just galling for Irish citizens that you would take that stance. And to say for sovereignty reasons, when we're being told that the Dáil will be recalled after the decision is made, if you were even serious about that, we'd be back in advance of a decision so we could genuinely debate the matter, not provide a cover maybe to spare the blushes of the Independent Alliance who look like they will go along with what many people believe to be treachery.
Claire, what you don't recognise is that in the last 2 years, the corporate tax landscape in Ireland has dramatically changed, and much of that is down to Michael Noonan. 2.5 years ago, we were taking in just over 4 billion. Now we're taking in 8 billion. It's virtually doubled. And why is that? Because the loopholes that Michael Noonan has taken out and the OECD agenda is working. And on the other question that you've raised about other states, yes, other states rightly defend their interest here. The Santander case that was mentioned by Tony Connolly in a news piece this morning in Morning Ireland is a case in point where the Spanish government won, although it's on appeal at the moment. So there's a lot riding on this.
But Brian Hayes, when you talk about the loopholes that Michael Noonan has closed or taken out, don't they go to the very heart of the decision handed down by the Commission, the Competition Commissioner earlier this week?
But how do you change the rules after the event?
No, but the point is that but by closing those loopholes, didn't we acknowledge and accept that the arrangement with Apple was wrong?
I think that is the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is when all of those changes came about, mostly through the OECD and not the European Commission, our European lawmakers, Ireland was to the fore with other countries in taking out those loopholes. But the other problem...
But then are we supposed to draw a curtain over everything that happened prior to those changes in 2014?
The question is, was that legal under Irish law? That's the fundamental question.
And there's another question, was it legal under European competition law?
And that's the real issue that has to be clarified, because there are many people And it's been lost in the Court of Appeal
by that country. Opinion would be that that will not be the case when it's finally adjudicated upon. All the money is riding on the fact that, in actual fact, the original decision will stand up in that regard, and that Ireland would lose such a challenge. And it is an affront to Irish people who are out there struggling, who pay their taxes on small wages, that you would defend tax regimes where some of the world's wealthiest corporations are paying effective tax rates of 2% to 6%. When small businesses are struggling and paying massive amounts.
Okay, we're going to leave it there between Claire Daly and Brian Hayes, and they've been arguing